Well, hello, avid readers of Christian fiction. I am so glad that I'm here today with Jaime Jo Wright, and it's not storming here in Arkansas. We had to postpone it twice last week because we had huge storms. I had no internet. Well, it was in and out. But welcome, Jaime Jo. We're going to be talking about your fifth book, The Haunting at Bonaventure Circus. Super fun.
Yes.
Hold it up. Okay, yeah. Always the fun part is trying to figure that out.
Right.
I have it on Audible, so I'm going to put it there. It's available.
Yours is prettier.
It's
nice and red.
It's colorful. So I'm excited to have you.
It's so good to be here. I'm excited to be here, and I love the group and interacting as a reader. So
I know.
It's super fun.
It's really a great group. I think they're the most amazing people, and just the way they support each other and help each other. I always love, like, I'll see a question pop up, like in my little notifications, and by the time I get there, like 20 people have already answered it. I'm like, this is awesome. Yes. Okay, so this is your fifth novel, like we mentioned.
Yes.
Just give a little, like, short description of what it's about.
That's every author's worst nightmare. A short description of your book.
Don't tell us everything. Just the back cover copy version.
About, I'll even go shorter than the back copy. It's about a haunted circus, and it spans 2 decades, so or 2 different time periods. So it starts out in 1928, and then the mystery continues in present day. And so they're trying to figure out what the story is about this circus and why it's so mysterious.
Yay! And I love split time novels. I think it's so fun going back and then coming forward. And so 1928, there was the women had the right to vote. There was all the prohibition. There's a lot of things happening, which I know you talk about. Even the first chapter, a lot of change. Why did you get the idea to do a split time around a circus?
Well, a couple of reasons. One, I was born and raised in Baraboo, Wisconsin, which is home of the Ringling Brother Circus, who eventually bought out also Barnum and Bailey Circus. So circus is, I don't want to say in my blood, because if you live in this town, you actually have to be part of the circus. But it's definitely been a part of my entire life. We live just a few blocks from it, so all the summer you could hear the calliope and everything. It was great. So that's one of the reasons I always wanted to write something about that. And the 1920s and 30s was definitely a golden era for the circuses, and so that was a natural time era to gravitate toward.
Yeah, I had no idea you grew up with all that around you.
So, yeah.
Do you remember, did they have circus performance in the town, or were they just going out from there? How did it work?
So there's a place called Circus World Museum, and it's basically acre upon acre. So it's quite large, and it's where the wintering grounds, which you'll read about in Bonaventure Circus, the actual wintering grounds for the Ringling Circus are right there. So it's all along the railroad tracks, and there's a river that splits the grounds. There's all the buildings like the animal houses, the menagerie houses, the big coal furnaces that they used to heat them during the winter. And then there's the river. So when I was a kid, we'd go down to the river in the summer, and they'd bring the elephants down into the river. So we'd sit and watch the elephants, bathe in the river and, shoot the water over their backs. And then in the summer, they set up an actual big top. So you go into the Circus World Museum. It's more of a live actual circus. There's the merry-go-rounds, there's the big tops, there's the sideshows, all sorts of things. So that's what I grew up in.
That is amazing. I can't even picture that. And was there a lot of people around town that you knew from the circus or had seen a circus?
Oh yeah, there were people from the circus that went to our church growing up. In fact, the circus is still there. The Circus World Museum is still there. They do that every summer. There's a family in our church that has the camels at their farm. My mom actually grew up in one of the farms just outside of town that used to house the elephants. Because they had so many elephants, they didn't store them all like they're on a shelf. They didn't put them all in the elephant house. So they actually had a Ringling barn outside of town. That's where my mom lived.
That is
and
so
cool. And then and then the square it's hard to describe if you haven't seen it, but you go down Water Street, which is where the circus is, and you come up Ash Street, and then there's just a literal square, and that's the downtown square. So back in the day, they would walk the elephants up that route to give them their daily exercise. So you go down the square to go shopping, and there'd be elephants, there'd be zebras, different things like that. And now we have a population of about 12,000 in our town. And in the summer, we have the Ringling Circus Parade. And people will come from New York, Los Angeles, everywhere. So we'll go from 12,000 to about 60,000 in the summer for one weekend. So it gets crazy. And they do the parade right around the square.
That is so cool. So we have a hi from Wisconsin. And then we also have, where do you store your elephants? Someone asked.
In the closet,
In the closet. You show your elephants when you're done. And then someone said, love that personal history, which I'm like, I grew up in Weed, California. We didn't have elephants. Like, I don't think what we had. Nothing. We had nothing. I went to a lake and made a contact. I don't even know.
I'm not sure there's a lot of places in the U.S. that have elephants walking down the street and swimming in their river. So
no, yeah. So I mean, my kids would love that so much. Yeah. They would love to go.
I love it. I love taking my kids there. I still go on the merry-go-round, and when I was a kid, the merry-go-round was free, so that's where I spent all my time. I just go around and around. Now you have to pay I don't know, 50 cents or something. But there's one horse on the merry-go-round that was always my horse because the nostrils were painted red, and I always thought it had a bloody nose. And so I felt bad for it. And it was one of that was on the inside too, so it wasn't the cool seat. So it would never have a rider, so I'd ride it all the time. And then when I took my daughter when she was 2 for the first time, the first place we went was there, and I had to find out if he was still there.
The nose still red?
The nose was still red. And I went up to my friend who was with me, and I'm like, it's my horse. And she's got pictures of me kissing it, and it's just kind of all around sad.
I thought you were going to say the bloody nose just really showed your love for all this mystery and stuff to come.
Actually, it showed that at one point in life, I actually had a really soft, empathetic heart. I'm not sure what happened.
And then it just got dark after that.
It got dark, right?
Yeah. And I did want to mention too, because I mean, there is mystery, there's murder, talks about in the beginning ghosts and all these things. When were you first drawn to write that genre?
It's really funny because I scared so easy when I was a kid. My parents had to be very careful what I watched even. Mm-hmm. I would have nightmares after watching MacGyver. Yeah. Which now I watch now. I'm like, how did you have a nightmare from that?
Yeah.
So, I mean, people think I sit and watch horror movies, and I read my first Stephen King novel last year.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But I've always been, I've loved Nancy Drew. I've loved Trixie Golden. I've loved Agatha Christie. And I've also loved the Gothic elements of Wuthering Heights and Jane Eyre and House of Seven Gables. And so the marriage of the two is really fun to put together. And I don't know, there's something different about a book versus a visual movie.
Yeah.
I can't watch a horror movie or, even The Sixth Sense with Bruce Willis just festered in me for a long time, but yet there's something fascinating about ghosts. I don't know. I'm a strange person.
It's a unique mixture of all these things.
Yeah.
I was the same way, and even with my oldest 3 kids, I didn't even let them watch The Wizard of Oz because of the monkeys, because they scared me when I was little. Yeah, and so
my daughter's never seen it.
They were teenagers when I finally let them watch The Wizard of Oz. And then we were watching Moana yesterday with my little granddaughter. I just have kids walking in and out of the room, by the way. Right. We're just
that's cool.
Okay, Bella, I'm on a live video call right now. She wants to know about her shirt.
Anyway, it's really nice.
I know. My little granddaughter who's 20 went to watch Moana, and I'm like, Leslie, this is kind of scary. And she's like, she's fine. So I'm totally that type of person too. But what I love is there's your writing, and it's also poetic. And so it's beautiful and not just scary. I don't know.
Yeah, I like to go for, I've been accused of being a Charles Dickens wannabe, because I literally spend 3 or 4 pages just setting the setting. It's just everything, and then I'm like, okay, chop, because nobody wants to read 4 pages about the lawn. But it, as you look around creation and you look around every scene or scenario, there's so much. I don't know. Everything seems to be alive. I don't want to cross into the everything has a spirit realm, the tree has a spirit. But to a degree, I feel like they all have a part in the story, if that makes sense. And so I want every nuance to be described. And I think that's where some of that literary poetry or lyrical word comes from. Yeah.
Yeah. And for those, like for Christian readers that have never written this type of book, like how do you think, because I know like the spiritual realm is something we live in, but we don't really think about. So what would you say to maybe someone who's like, oh, I love Christian fiction, but I don't know if I'd enjoy reading that type of book.
Right. Well, no, that's a good question too, because you touched talking ghosts and people are like, wait, what? Christian fiction? You know, ghosts and Christianity don't necessarily go hand in hand. I do definitely believe that there's a spiritual realm. And I think because there's a spiritual realm, we as humans have a natural fascination for it. There's a natural fascination in the afterlife. And so I think that's kind of what I feed off of, but I always have an earthly explanation for it. Because I don't want to cross into, whatever your belief is on a ghost, whatever the reader's belief is on the spirit world. It's just such an unknown place that I'd prefer to leave that in the hands of the Lord, not try to, design that. So it's fun to throw out little tidbits of like, was it a ghost? What explains that? And, in this one, there's a little bit that goes unexplained because it's just fun to have something unexplained. But to readers who are unsure, I don't go with the jump out of the closet, scary in the face, demonic type of a ghost that don't sit well.
Yeah. That's good to know. I think that's helpful to know. And also, like one of my daughters, she's 17. She's so fascinated by that kind of stuff. I'll be like, she's listening to podcasts. Like, what are you listening to? But she also I'm like, you know what? Because she was wanting a new Bible study. I'm like, I'm just going to get you a book, like a Bible study on Revelation. And she just fascinated by, because there is, like, you read Revelation, like this is a lot of stuff that we cannot explain, that we don't understand. And I think for her, it has helped build her faith, like reading Revelation and all that curiosity and being piqued by those types of interests and realizing like, oh, this is in the Bible. Like, God.
It is. And it's interesting too, because you even have it in the Old Testament where, was it, I always get the names mixed up. Saul? No. One of them conjured up one of the prophets.
Yeah, so Saul conjured up Samuel. Yeah.
Thank you. Samuel. That's the name I was looking for. And, so you're kind of like, okay, wait, are there ghosts? Like what?
Yeah.
And then I've had, you hear stories, like my great uncle, his wife passed away and he was very concerned for whether she was a believer and whether she loved the Lord. And he was disturbed for several months. And then one morning he was fine. And we were like, what happened? And he said, oh, I saw her last night. She came to my room and, she was just smiling. And he had a whole story about what gave him peace. And so I'm kind of like, okay, was it a vision? Was it something God just gave him a dream? Was it an actual spirit? And those are the questions that I think, again, I leave to the Lord, and the thing I want to be cautious with in all of my books is that while I enjoy playing with the, almost the childish version of ghosts, the spooky elements of them, they're fun, but don't want to cross over into that conjuring of a spirit world that is something we just don't understand and I don't want to play with.
Yeah. So it's like Scooby-Doo.
Right, very much so. Honestly, it is very much like Scooby-Doo. I mean, you get those fun, scary moments, but it's not like I have people doing seances and weird things. This one has the one thing I did do in this book, though, that is a little bit different, is I did have a main character who's a medium in this book, and the reason I put her in was not to show anything other than her as a human being, because I think as Christians sometimes we have such a stay away from things that are that way, but there's so many people in the world that do believe those things. That's important to show how can we interact with them without necessarily joining in with them, if that makes any sense. And so she's a character in the book, and I won't give out any spoilers on it, but she actually ended up being one of my more favorite characters. She was fun to write.
Those quirky ones always are, aren't they?
They are. They really, really are.
Yep. So what comment said, that's what I love about your books. They're super creepy, but there's always an explanation. So that's good to know. And I wish on Be Live it would say more than just Facebook user. Like
right.
People commenting. I can't see who they are. So I'll be saying Facebook user.
Right. So if you're leaving a comment, you can throw your name in there or something.
Yeah, exactly. So if you want to say your name, you can include your name in there.
And they'll know who you are.
You'll be able to see. Okay, so tell us a little bit. Okay, so when you were working on the split time, you have so much right there. I would just love to hear just a little bit about your research, because you basically grew up right where everything is.
Right. And so much of this book, it's funny because I've had people talk to me about how much research I had to do, and I did very little because so much of it was just known from growing up. And yet I feel like I've barely scratched the surface of what could have been told. But I did do some additional research, read some local papers, and, went down to the museum a couple of times and looked at their they have the a 2-scale model of what the circus looked like back in the day on those grounds, and took a lot of pictures and things like that. So, it was just, really, I just hung out at the circus to do my research. It was very painful. It was very long and tedious work.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about your characters. We talked about the setting and the circus, and I know the main character from 1928 was adopted. Did you feel like, and I know you're adopted, did you feel like tying that story element in made the book special and unique to you?
I think so. I think I was able to relate to a lot of the questions that Pippa had. And every adoptee has a different set of questions. And I think so often people have and we do with most things, is a stereotype of what's the general drift. And that's one of the things that I wanted to do with Pippa, where, the stereotype of the circus is that they take everybody. And she was the one that they actually rejected. And so, she has this feeling of rejection, of abandonment. And why wasn't she even good enough for the circus? And that feeling of why, I think, is probably the one question that most adoptees can relate to, is the why. And what goes along hand in hand with that can be different from adoptee to adoptee depending on their story. But, she had that big why question, and that was one that wasn't hard for me to draw on.
Yeah.
Because that was personal.
Yeah, and we've adopted 7 kids.
Right.
And I could say every single one of them thinks of different things. They are curious about different things. Some haven't even got to the curious part yet. Literally, our 13-year-old that keeps walking in and out talking about her laundry that she wants help with. I'm like, I cannot help you with your laundry right now. She never talks about it. Never brings it up. I don't know. Maybe come later, but even when we first got her, we took her to therapy. She was like, I don't want to talk about it. And the therapist was like, some kids, they just, I think she's fine.
Right.
And some kids, an everyday conversation. So it is just curious how it is unique. But I think there are so many similar questions. And I think it's important from your history to maybe delve into that, different than I would, or, for someone else.
Yeah, and there's so many nuances with adoption where if an adoptee is adopted into a really healthy home, they have a completely different story than an adoptee that's taken out of one home and pulled into another home that's unhealthy. And so that was where my paths kind of deviated from Pippa's. I was adopted into what I would say is an extremely healthy home, and was raised very much with the element of security, where Pippa in this book is taken out of what should have been the one place you could run to if you don't fit anywhere else, and thrown into another scenario where she really was just not really wanted. She was kind of an obligation. So she's like, really, where does she go after that?
Yeah. Oh, so good. Okay. We have a comment, and Jennifer put her name in here. Jennifer, thank you for doing that. She said, my favorite part of your books is the characters. You created such a beautiful community in this book. I'd love it if you would share a little about how it felt to write a character who deals with Lyme disease.
Yeah, so Chandler, my modern day heroine, has Lyme disease, as do I. And Lyme disease is something that is new and not new. It's been around for a while. The medical community still doesn't quite know what to do with it. Insurance companies definitely don't know what to do with it. And even for treatments, they're so unknown. And so writing Chandler is really a mirror image of my experiences with Lyme. A lot of people may not even relate to it because most people will equate Lyme disease with like the arthritic joint pain. And mine is more neurological. So it's more in the anxieties, it's in the seizures that you have that are non-epileptic, which she explains even to the people in the book. Why can she drive a car if she's having seizures? Well, here's the reason. And so it was fun to bring some awareness to that. I also have kind of like the underlying hope that maybe it'll give somebody an idea to look at it if they're having health problems, because it's not the first thing a doctor will look for. And so I'm like, well, if you're getting some of these symptoms, maybe be checked if you're in an area where you have deer ticks, because it is, I mean, I know so many people here in Wisconsin that actually battle it on a regular basis. It's kind of scary sometimes.
Yeah. How long have you known?
I've known that I have chronic Lyme for 2 years. I had the tick bite, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago, and was treated for it. And whether this is residual or whether I had another bite that I didn't see, I'm not sure. But I had wound up in the hospital, and they did all the tests, is it EEGs on the head and stuff like that? EKGs. EKG's hard, isn't it? Yeah, so the EKG. And they came down to, they thought it was, honestly, they thought it was mental. Is really, they asked my husband to find out why I had PTSD. And I'm like, I don't have PTSD. And I so adamant that I didn't. So we went to a different doctor, and they ran a test, and they ran panels that don't typically get run. And I was off the charts.
Oh, wow.
The Lyme panels on almost, there's 10 different markers, and I was off the charts on 9 of them. And they said, yeah, it's gone into your brain, so there's no coming back.
Oh my goodness.
So now it's just a matter of moderating and living a lifestyle that tries to keep it from flaring up.
Yeah, which is a balance of children and working and writing and all the things.
Right. I picked a stress-free life.
Yeah.
No, I have an extremely supportive family. And the kids are like, Mom, are you having an episode? We call them episodes if Mommy's having a flare up, so it doesn't sound quite so scary. Yeah. And I'm like, yep, I need to just go take a nap. And so they're really good with it. And my little boy, he's 8, but he still likes it when I have episodes because then he gets to take a nap with me. And he doesn't sleep. He just talks my ear off. But I usually fall asleep while he's talking, and he just keeps talking. So it's a win-win.
Yeah. I just tell them I need to go take a nap. So all the time, like, I just need to go take a nap.
You know, my son went to camp this year, summer camp. It was really small because of COVID. And my friend took him because she was working in the kitchen. And she said the very first night they asked all the little boys there at the camp, they said, what is your mom's favorite thing to do? And my son raised his hand. He's jumping up and down. And my friend thought for sure he was going to be like writing or reading. And they called on him and said, well, Cole, what does your mom like to do? And he goes, naps. That's her favorite thing ever, is to sleep. And I'm like, really? That's what I'm known for.
I think my kids would probably say that. I remember one of my teen daughters sent me a shirt that says "Mama Bear needs a nap."
Yeah,
so I'm like, yes. I don't know, and I think maybe it is part of the writer thing too, where it's like you're using all your brain, and then it just stops. Like
it does.
I just cannot. Like we're done. Nap time.
I can't. Sometimes I'll look at a macaroni and cheese box, and I'm like, I don't even know how to read this to make it.
Yeah.
Let alone remember that I've made it 1,700 times in the past.
Yeah. Jamie, I'm right there.
I'm right there. And I only have 2 kids, so I don't know how you do it.
Yeah. I nap a lot.
I do.
But I can do like a 30-minute, 20-minute, 30-minute thing, and I'm like good to go.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah. Usually once I start sleeping, I actually go into that deep sleep really fast. And so then waking up can be like waking up the dead. But
oh, wow. Yeah.
It's fun.
Josie, who I love that name, says it's so hard to get a diagnosis, but such relief when you finally know it's really something and not all in your head.
And that's true. Very true. It's similar to people who struggle with all kinds of autoimmune issues, because those I like to call I call them the ghost disease. It's like they're there, but they're not really there. Mm-hmm. And they're hard to explain to people because they can't see the effects of them. So they think sometimes that you're just a whiner. For lack of a better way to put it.
But yeah, I always tell my husband, well, it's funny because I'm the one, especially with my kids, where I'm like, you're fine. You're fine.
Yeah.
And they always joke because they're like, here, put an essential oil on it. Because I'm like, yeah, I just rub some thieves on your feet. Like, I'm fine. Right. And my daughter kept complaining about breathing. So literally after years, I finally took her in. They're like, she has asthma. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. And then my other daughter, we take her in, and she has an autoimmune disease that she's had even before we adopted her. But she's like, my back's bothering me. We took her in there like, oh yeah, she has osteoporosis from the medicine she's taking. She goes this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I really need to pay attention to my poor children. What they're telling me. Sorry,
that's so funny.
Yeah. All right. So what I'm loving is hearing like, this is Jaime Jo in a book.
It really is more so than I realized.
Circus. We have the adoption stories, and then the Lyme disease thing. And I think, I mean, for me, when I find myself connecting to a story, and then I hear the author, I'm like, okay, this is why I'm connecting, because these are personal levels. This is your childhood. This is so many things, like what you're facing now, all wrapped up in a book. And so I love, plus you talked about like the types of books that you love and just your poetic writing, how it all comes in. And I think that is so important when it comes, to writing fiction, but I think it's also awesome for readers, because not only do the books seem to come alive more, but also, again, we find this connection with the reader. I mean, with the writer in ways that we have never experienced before.
Yeah, it is. And I've had a few people who know me really well. And in the book, Chandler has a little boy that she named Peter, and everybody knows online, I call my son Peter Pan. And really, again, that was a reflection of me and my son. And he asked me to write him into a book. So he calls this his book. He's very excited about it. And he's got a couple copies in his room on his dresser, and he wants me to autograph them. It's kind of cute.
Yeah, it's so cute. When I first heard that part where she was leaving him with a babysitter and talked about his age, I'm like, okay, yeah. I guess. Yeah. Yeah.
In fact, he has his own little made-up superhero in the book, and that my son actually made up. I said, okay, I need a superhero. You have to design him. So he spent time figuring out names and what the superhero would wear and who the villain would be. And so it was kind of fun.
I love that. Yeah, I've written in people in my books. I haven't done my kids yet. I don't know. Sometimes if I'm mad at them, I might like, oh, we're going to put you over here.
A bratty child.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you don't even know. No, just kidding. But that's the fun part of being creative. We just take all these life experiences and put them in the book. So now that it's out there, and I just went over, well, first I should ask this. Do you read your reviews on Amazon?
I do. I think they're fun.
Okay, good. Me too. Because I don't mind them. People are like, I never read my reviews. I'm like, I do.
Even the negative ones I like. I've actually learned some things from the negative ones. And then the other ones that are negative, it's art. Art isn't going to appeal to everybody. So I would be surprised if I had everybody loving it. That'd be really? Really?
Well, I would say looking at your Amazon reviews, like right now, they're all loving it. There's some really great ones out there. So, I mean, now that you have the book out, like what do you love hearing from readers as they pick up the story?
Well, first, I love hearing if it touches them in a way that's personal and can bring joy or peace or something. If there's a little tidbit that God can use it to encourage them, that first and foremost is always the one that makes me go, okay. Because, then it's not just that I'm writing fiction and it's a hobby, but it actually has meaning and depth that lasts more eternally than just a story, because it's just going to burn up someday and wither away. It's not going to be around, So that's how it affects somebody personally is what I love the most in reviews. But other than that, I love hearing about which character that they usually appreciated the most or liked the most. And I love how much love Lily the elephant is getting. So I feel a little bit bad for Pen the dog. She's kind of been overshadowed by Lily the elephant, but hey.
See, now you need to write a children's book about Lily the elephant.
Oh, hey, that'd be a great spin-off.
That would be so cute.
I need to talk to my agent about that.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Thank you, Tricia. The first one will be dedicated to you.
There we go. That would be awesome, actually.
That would be really fun.
Okay. 2 questions as we're going to wrap this up. Okay. First of all, can you tell us like what you're working on next? I know some people are like, oh, I can't tell you, but like generally, like a little.
Generally.
A little
Yes,
for the avid
I
reader?
I can even give you the title.
Oh, okay.
Yes, the title is called On the Cliffs of Foxglove Manor.
Ooh, okay.
And it takes place on Lake Superior in the Upper Peninsula. And it's also a split time. And basically, in short, it's Civil War treasure hunt. That's probably the best way to put it.
That sounds awesome. That sounds really cool.
Yeah. So, and it's about the present day heroine. Her story is starts when she's 25, but when she was 5 years old, she was kidnapped for a day, and nobody ever believes her. So she's gone for 20 years now with no one believing that she'd actually been abducted and interrogated for a day about this treasure that she supposedly knows about but doesn't remember.
Wow. Okay. I cannot wait to read that.
I just saw the cover too. My cover designer and editor just sent it over, and it's really cool.
That is so fun. And your covers are amazing. Like all of them. They've just been can you hold your book up again? Because
yes.
Yeah, it's so good. And you can't really see, like, there's, I don't know, just the color and stuff is so.
Yeah, it's cool.
I think you can see it better, like, on this.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, that looks good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jennifer Parker, I take no credit for it. She's my cover designer, and she's done every single book design. And what's really funny is I give her some tidbits and stuff of what I'm visualizing for the book for pictures. Like I give her a whole Pinterest board, but I don't really describe any scenes for her. And every single novel, she has picked out something specific to put on a cover that is part of a scene that she doesn't know exists.
Wow.
I'm starting to keep track, like every novel, like what did Jennifer put in now? Like The House on Foster Hills, she had no idea that there was an old piano in the house.
Oh, and I have that up here somewhere.
Yeah.
I should have pulled all my books off your shelf. Oh,
that's okay.
Here's one of them. That's a close
one.
one.
And The Curse of Missy Wayfarer. She didn't know, but I have a scene where there's a silent patient sitting in a chair by a window.
Ooh.
And so the chair was right there. And then this, The Haunting at Bonaventure Circus. I have a scene where she goes into an old train depot, and there's a poster with an elephant on the wall. It's an old poster that's been kind of half ripped off. And then she sends me this book cover. I'm like, you didn't know that was okay? That's in the book.
You just have a connection.
Right. I have never yet gotten a book cover and asked for anything to be changed.
That is so cool.
It's
I love it.
First one and done. She's just nailed it every time. She is absolutely phenomenal. So
I love it. Okay, so yeah, someone else said that's a great idea, kids book. So there you go.
All right, there we go. I'm gonna start thinking about Lily the Elephant.
Okay. And then someone said, when does the new book release? Just barely released, and they're already asking about the next one. Why do we have to wait?
I don't actually have an official release date, but you can pretty much count 9 to 10 months forward from when this one releases. So I'm guessing this one will probably be close to around May.
Okay.
Around May-ish, April, May.
We can wait. I mean, you know, we lived through COVID. We could wait until May. Like, it'll be okay. All right. Okay. And then last question. What have you read? What Christian fiction, I should say. What Christian fiction have you read in the last couple of years that you would recommend to our avid readers?
Well, if you like the circus theme, I'm a huge fan of Lady in the Lionheart by Joanne Bischoff.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to go with the poetic circus, literary, just beautiful, that one is great. And that one does not have ghosts or creepy clowns. That one doesn't have any suspense at all, believe it or not. So if you want a circus book that's not going to scare you, then definitely do Lady in the Lionheart.
But you just need to go and pick up Jaime Jo's book, though. Haunting at Bonventure Circus. All right, and then Josie said, "Oh, May, happy birthday to me." So.
Oh, there you go.
Awesome.
Happy birthday.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, thank you, Jaime Jo, for being here. Is there anything else you want to say as we're wrapping up?
I don't think so. I think it's just fun to be here, and I'll be around avid Christian readers anyway because I like joining in as a reader. So much fun.
And I know most of the views come afterwards because people work and have kids and all that kind of stuff. So if you can come in and check the comments over the next couple of days, I'll do more. Yeah, if anybody wants to leave a question in the comment, feel free, and I'll keep checking and jump in as I can. Well, thank you so much. It's been awesome talking to you today. Super fun.